Today, I'm joined by Scrum.org professional Scrum trainer Duncan Maddox, and we are talking about sprints in Scrum with practical tips for how to get your team sprinting towards the goal every time. Let's get into it.
The heart of Scrum is a sprint, a time box at 1 before us, during which a done, usable, and potentially releasable product increment is created.
Okay, let's get into this. We are talking about the sprint as the heart of Scrum. What does that mean?
So I think everyone is familiar with the term sprint. It's one of the most ubiquitous terms from Agile. Everyone likes sprinting. We're doing sprints. Because the sprint is just quite a simple concept. It's a time box container for all the work you're doing and all the planning you're doing and all the reviewing and retrospecting that you're doing. So quite simply, it's just a set amount of time where you do some work and then you inspect and adapt your progress.
The sprint itself is not really a thing. It's simply a container for all of the other things. As a container for all the other events or everything happens within a sprint. There's nothing that happens outside a sprint. There's no time between sprints. Everything that happens is within one of the sprints to keep that ball rolling, right? To keep that momentum.
Yeah, transparency, easy for me to say. If it doesn't happen within a sprint, you don't know what the cost of it is. You don't know what the cost of doing the work is. So everything takes place within the sprint. So the advantage of having a consistent length for your sprint is the team get used to delivering with a regular heartbeat, if you like, and they have that cadence. They get used to delivering every 2 weeks or every 3 or 4 weeks, whatever their sprint length is.
It makes it predictable. It makes the work kind of predictable, not mundane, but routine. People do react well sometimes to routines and a schedule, to knowing what's going to happen. It takes the uncertainty out of the work by knowing that, okay, we're going to start here and we're going to plan some stuff. Then we're going to get into it and we're going to do some stuff. And then we're going to show that stuff. And then we're going to talk about how we did the stuff. And then we're going to do that again and again and again. It takes that fear, uncertainty, and doubt out of a lot of the work, I think.
Well, the way that we naturally work is always has a cadence. You know, we get up and we go to work, or at least we used to before we were locked down in our homes. You know, now we get up and we switch Zoom on or whatever. But we work with our own cadences. We're used to having the cadences of weeks and weekends and calendar months and reviewing budgets from that perspective. So applying that same principle of having a cadence to a project can feel quite natural to a lot of teams. The reason the sprint is so powerful is because we have our time box of maybe 2 weeks, maybe a calendar month, and we forecast what we're going to do. And at the end of the sprint, we show what we've done and we know what we've got done. Not what the team estimated they could get done, not what they said they could get done, not what their manager said they should get done, what they actually did get done. Did get done? Can we say that?
Did get done.
Did get done.
Did get done.
Going with it.
Yeah.
That's what the team did get done.
Did get done.
And that's incredibly powerful, what they did get done.
What they did get done is what Scrum is all about doing. It helps the team and everyone know where they are right now so they can plan what to do next. It gives us a firm endpoint where we're going to take stock and say, this is where we are now. Right. What should we do next? What's the most valuable thing? What do the customers want? What should we be working on next? Based on this stop point, the end of the sprint, the review, bang, this is where we are. Time to go again.
This is what we did get done.
This is what we did get done. And this is what we didn't get done.
This transparency on where we are, but also the increased understanding of what we can get done in the future based empirically what we've got done in previous sprints. And therefore, that's just going to help all of our forecasting and our understanding of our actual progress towards business goals.
That's a super good point, because all of the metrics in Scrum are most useful when they're used as trends. We compare trends over time. We compare the metric last month to this month, and so on and so forth. And the sprint gives us a time box to allow us to create trends over our metrics and look at how we've done previously, not just the number right now, but how did that compare to exactly the same time box last iteration, the previous iteration, the previous iteration. It makes our metrics more useful.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you Googled why Scrum doesn't work, why is Scrum rubbish, you'll find a lot of people complaining about sprints, having to work in this way. But the real advantage of working in sprints is it gives you that transparency on your actual progress towards business goals that you don't get otherwise. Sprints are time boxed to 1 calendar month for various different reasons. What do we think the main reasons are?
It seems like an arbitrary limit in some ways. So Scrum itself rarely prescribes hard limits, specifics, but the time box of a sprint is hard limited to 1 month or less. Apparently, if you do more than a month, you're not doing Scrum. We could talk about that perhaps one day. Why is it time boxed to a month or less? Because that seems like a limit that that is a limit that's been demonstrated empirically to reduce complexity to a sufficient level that small teams can handle that complexity.
I think you could argue that it's an arbitrary limit. It is an arbitrary limit. But at the same time, most organizations work around calendar months for budgeting, for review purposes. So I think it makes a lot of sense in the vast majority of cases that you should be able to produce something in a calendar month. And because we're talking about these sprints as mini projects, and because one of the many advantages of Scrum is that you can demonstrate return on investment, because budgets are worked out month to month, I think there's a very strong case for making the monthly upper limit.
1 week sprints reduce that complexity even further. The shorter we go, the less complex it is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the longer the sprint, the more danger is that you'll get to the end of the sprint and you'll have delivered nothing. And for me, getting to the end of a whole month's work with a whole team and the output is 0, that just feels risky. Very, very risky. So I'm much more comfortable with shorter sprints.
And I feel with a lot of teams, they feel longer sprints get the events out of the way. They focus a lot on the overhead of iteration. So the more frequently we iterate, the more events we have, the more frequently we have to do those. And longer sprints seem like, well, if we just plan a month, then we only have to do that once, and that's going to save us time and we can get on with doing the work. That's a fallacy, I think, that comes out from longer sprint lengths.
Yeah, I agree, because shorter sprints, you're going to have shorter events as well. Once teams get into that cadence, and let's come back to that cadence word, once teams get used to the cadence, and if you've got a week-long sprint and they're doing planning on Monday and reviews and retrospectives on Friday, a lot of teams get to like that, and they're having these short events, a lot of feedback. They're seeing rapid change, rapid improvement. The stakeholders are seeing product delivered every week, seeing real progress.
There's 2 sides to this. So what I found with shorter sprints, you do the events less frequently, but the events are also much shorter, exponentially shorter. So for example, often I've found a 2-week sprint planning session isn't simply twice as long as a 1-week sprint planning session. A 1-week sprint planning session can be much faster, more than 50% quicker than planning 2-week. It scales exponentially. The flip side of that is, let's take the review, for example. We're going to ask customers and stakeholders to turn up more often. They're going to have to give up more of their time, interrupt their schedules to attend the review specifically, which can be disruptive to their way of working if they're not working within the Scrum team itself.
Yeah, that's a very valid concern. And you can only really get around that by constantly delivering valuable product, which they're keen to see. And it's valuable to them to give up their time to see it and provide feedback.
Make it worth their time, make them deliver value in that event, and keep it short and concise. They don't want to be waffled onto. They don't want to see the marketing spiel.
Build it and they will come. A lot of stakeholders will tell you they don't have time to attend your silly meeting every week. But if you're actually building valuable product, which helps them and they're interested in, then they'll come to your sprint review.